Hi everybody, Patrick here from EngineeringShock.com. Today we're going to assemble one of our NRF24L01 plus Tranceiver shields. Currently it's Kickstarter Campaign. The link to the Kickstarter Campaign is linked below. This is the assembly video for the shield. Some of the reward tiers include DIY kits, so I'm going to show you how to put one together. It's quite easy. Let me introduce you to the components. We've got a single 470 ohm resistor, 8 10k ohm resistors, the shield PCB, 2 10-pin headers, 4 8-pin headers, 2 6-pin headers, a 100 microfarad electrolytic capacitor, red LED or green LED, a 0.1 microfarad ceramic capacitor, 2 momentary tactile buttons, an NRF24L01 plus unit, 6-pin 6-switch dip switch, and an 8-pin female header. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to get the headers out of the way, because the headers are the trickiest part. Really, they're the most entertaining part to solder, but you want to solder these first. You don't have to. It does make things easier to solder these first. So let's get rid of the rest of the components. So the idea is on the outer rails, we want the pins sticking up, and on the inner rails, we want the pins sticking down to fit into our shield. So how do we do that? What we're going to do is we're going to take. Let's start with the outer pins. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 10-pin header, one of the 10-pin headers, and I'm going to place it in the top of the board, making sure that it's at 90 degrees. I'm going to use my fingernail to hold it at 90 degrees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, using the underside of the board, I'm going to tin my soldering iron, and I'm just going to tin one of the leads. Once I'm done, I'm going to let go, make sure that it's still flush at 90 degrees, and then I'm going to solder the pin on the opposite end. I'm going to leave it that way. So let me do that and I'll show you what it looks like. There we have it. So now I'm going to do that with 2 of my 8-pin headers and 6-pin headers so that all of the outer pins are facing up, and then I'm going to solder in all of the remaining pads. Alright, so from a bird's eye view, we've got all of the pins sticking up. Now we turn it around, it's going to rest on those pins. And now we can fill in each of the holes, or rather fill in each of the remaining pads with the headers in them. Now once you're done doing that, you'll want to reflow all of the original tacks that we've put on there, just so that they look nice. And huzzah, we are done with that. So now let's do everything to the other side with the pins facing down. This side is a little bit trickier. I'll start with the the 10-pin header, and I'll place it on the bottom of the board with the long pins facing down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some solder to this pin right here. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of adding one to the other side, it's a little bit more difficult. You can if you want, but I'm just going to add a whole bunch of tack to that pin right there. I'm going to let go, I'm going to make sure that it's at 90 degrees and that it's being held in place. And if so, I can do this for the remaining 4 headers. However, you also have the option of coming in from the other side and just finishing that header off before moving on to the next header. And I'm going to do that for the one, and then I'm going to show you the other headers in place. So with that done, I can go on to the next header, the next 8-pin header to the right, and the 8-pin header and 6-pin header below. Again, do it however you're confident. I just soldered this header all up at once, but again, you can tack, and then finish all of the solder joints as you see fit. So I'm going to stop the video, I'm going to solder the rest of the pins in place, we're going to look at the board, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the circuitry. Now the rest of the circuitry is butter. It's simple. We've done the hard part with the headers. The rest of it is super easy, so let's just move forward. And there we have it. Outer pins facing up, inner pins facing down, all nicely at 90 degrees in each way. And so now, what we can do is, we're going to concentrate on the smaller components before we get to the bigger ones, just because if you put the bigger ones in first, the smaller ones are harder to put in. So what I'm going to do is I'll give a close-up of the board, and we'll solder the resistors in. Okay, so for our single 470 ohm resistor, we're going to solder it in right here. It's labeled 470R, and all of the 10k ohm resistors will go here, 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 here. These ones down here are labeled 22K, 22k ohms, just solder the 10k ohms in those spots. I've changed the design. So this is the easiest part. Just make sure there are no shorts. And I should mention, because I forgot to in the last step, look with a magnifying glass on all of your solder joints and the headers to make sure that there are no shorts between any two pins, just to make absolutely sure. So what I'm going to do is I'll solder the resistors into place, and I'll show you what the board should look like once done. Alright, the resistors are in place. Now we can solder in our ceramic capacitor, which goes right here in the little 0.1 U slot for 0.1 micro. We can also solder in our capacitor right here, our electrolytic capacitor, 100 micro. Now, if you look at the top pin of that footprint, there's a plus sign, a really tiny plus sign. That is the hole we want to place our long lead into, and the short lead we want to place into the bottom hole. And if you reverse that, you're going to pop it when you plug in your Arduino Uno. So again, long lead into the top hole, short lead into the bottom hole. The LED, similar to the electrolytic capacitor, has a long lead and a short lead, and it goes in the L1 slot. It's labeled L1. We want the long lead to go on the right and the short lead to go into the left. If you reverse that, your LED will not work. So solder that into place. Now we have two momentary buttons. They only fit in one way, and what you want to do is line them up with the holes, pop them in. Should pop right in, and you want to hold it just to make sure that it's flush. Solder one pin, tip one pin. Check it to make sure that it's still sitting flush to the board, and then solder the other pins, and do the same with the second button. And then our buttons will be done. The 8-pin female header only fits in one way as well, and you're going to want to make sure that it's sitting in the RF slot, and we're going to hold it, turn it around, tip one pin, let go, turn it back around, make sure it's still flush and nice and flat against the RF footprint. Once that's done, solder the rest of the pins. Don't apply too much heat for too long because you don't want the plastic header to melt. This is where we're going to place our NRF24L01 Plus unit. And again, once you're done soldering all the pins, check to make sure that there are absolutely no shorts between the pins. Right there, no shorts. Nice solder joints. Alright, the last of our main components. The dip switch should come with all of the switches in the off position. And as you can see from the footprint, the switches are facing up. So we are literally just going to line them up, the component up like this, fit them in the holes, and once they're all in, hold it down with one finger, turn it around. We're going to tin one pin. Turn it around again to ensure that it's flush to the board, and then we're going to solder the rest of the pins. Once done, as with everything else, ensure that there are no shorts. Alright, hunky-dory, we're done. Now, we can pick up our NRF24L01 Plus, line up the 8 pins, and it's in place, and we can remove it. You can even add a 24L01 Plus with antenna, which gives you extremely long range. You just have to make sure that the bottom of the extension doesn't hit the GPIOs on top if you decide to go with a longer range unit. Now what you might find is you'll get even better range if you add a capacitor to the 3 volt and ground pin on the 24L01 Plus. I'll be adding in an extra capacitor if you want to do that. There is a capacitor on the board between the 3 volt and ground line for this unit, but if you want some right on the board, it never hurts. So I'm actually going to solder one into place right now. You can do this, but at your own discretion. The leftmost pins are 5 volts in ground. So if you want to add a capacitor, you just have to add a little bit of solder to this pin and a little bit of the solder to this pin. Use a magnifying glass to ensure that there are no shorts that you've created. And then what you want to do is you want to take an extra 0.1 microfarad ceramic capacitor, like this, and you're going to want to cut the leads off almost right at the base, just so that there's just a little bit of lead showing, like that. And then you just have to add it in parallel with the 3 volt and ground pins. So I'm going to solder that into place and I'll show you what it looks like. So again, not necessary, nice to have, never hurts. And then once you're done it, you can either leave it out to the side or bend it up And that's it. That is the shield. So, where's my Arduino Uno? Now we're done. We can pop it into place, line up the top holes, bottom holes, pops in, and now we're ready to communicate with another NRF24L01 project, be it the motion sensor, relay board, multi-button board, or your own project, including one of these NRF24L01 Plus modules. If you want to extend the range, again, you can use one of these bad boys with an adjustable antenna. Really extends the range massively. You pop it in, and you just have to make sure that you put something underneath these GPIOs, or else you'll short the antenna pins on the GPIO pins on the top. So that's up to you. These aren't very expensive. You can buy these online on Amazon or on eBay. So thank you again for watching. If you pledged towards the campaign, I certainly appreciate it. If not, it doesn't matter. I'm just happy that you took the time to watch the video. Thanks for your time, and have a great day, everyone.